All right, welcome back to the show. So let's do our new 50-50 matchup. Last week we started to do a new program, didn't we?
So basically we're just kind of doing like a pardon the interruption kind of topic. Last week we talked about like what happened to Punk, et cetera, et cetera. And so this week, obviously the big news was the summit and Hook Gang God's win, right?
Yep.
So last week on the chat, you and Tubaware kind of got into it a little bit because you were saying like Piccolo sucks, and Tubaware's like, he's not that bad. And then Hook Gang God comes in here and he wins the tournament with Piccolo, right? And it's an interesting topic because, recently on Twitter we've had Mena RD even being like, I'm done with Birdie. I can't play this character anymore. I need to jump to somebody else. Punk tried to go to Cammy. Knuckle-Doo started playing Cammy. Haitani left Nakali, went to Akuma and everything. Right. We have all these people abandoning ship for top-tier characters, right? And then in a game where, one, the players felt like we definitely knew who was the best, and two, a game where the tiers definitely matter more than most of the other games.
It seemed like it.
All of a sudden, Piccolo and Hook Gang God win.
Not just that, but 5th place Apology Man. So the two Piccolo players, Apology Man's there at 5th place with Piccolo, Tien, Goku, which is like not a top tier team for any of those characters.
So here's the question then: is it better then to stick with a character that isn't strong? So like, are people like Mena RD and Punk and Gamer B and Knuckle-Doo and all these guys, are they making a mistake trying to jump to a top tier character? Obviously it didn't work for Punk. He's going back to Karen, for example, right? Is it a mistake to do that because playing the character that you connect with is the way that you win, like Hook Gang God, right? Is that better, or is Piccolo actually just top tier? And we just didn't know, because this is what happens in fighting games, right?
Sure. I think it's unlikely that Piccolo's top tier, but I also think he's probably good. He's just not like a top tier. He's not among the 5 best, but is he among the 10 best?
Yeah, but I mean, in this game where like Cell and like Kid Buu are just like, and Bardock are clearly
very strong,
better than most of the other characters, Hook Gang God succeeds with Piccolo. So what do you think? I mean, if you were talking to some of like those Street Fighter players who are jumping to the top tier character, would you say you're making a mistake?
I think I would caution against learning too much of a lesson from Hook Gang God winning with his team. His victories were as much about Cell Vegeta as they were about Piccolo. Certainly there were some games when Piccolo basically ran the show, but I would submit that in general it was more about Cell and Vegeta. So I think it's tough to learn from a team game the lesson that you have to go top tier because you have multiple characters to sort of to rely on. In Street Fighter, you just got the one, and in other single games, you just got the one. So I think it's kind of like difficult to learn that lesson too strongly. But I'm certainly not going to argue anymore that I think Piccolo's bad, because it doesn't seem like he's bad. Yeah, I think I was probably wrong about that.
One of the things the commentators are saying is that his jump attacks are all super good, and they just look like they have ridiculous range on them. But I mean, there is something to be said about using the characters that you're comfortable with, right? I mean, because let's think about it. Last year, Tokido's using Akuma. Everyone's like, oh, he's the best character in the game, and all these, Knuckle-Doo with Guile and all these things like that. And who won it was Mena RD with Birdie. He won Capcom Cup, and that was just like...
It turned out that Birdie was top 5.
Right, exactly. That was the thing. All of a sudden, everyone's like, oh my God, he's top 5. We had Cien win with Gen and stuff like that, Is it? I mean, there's part of me that really feels like trying to change to a top-tier character very rarely works. I mean, Cammy won. She's obviously super strong, but the Cammy that won was someone who's been playing her for all 3 seasons.
There you go.
Right? So I really do, like, that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, if you're using Ryu, you're going to win, because Ryu sucks, right? I mean, it's like, there's a different story between Ryu and Piccolo. They're, like, in 2 very different characters, right?
Yeah, I mean, Hook Gang God did not win with like Ginyu, or
like with like Yamcha.
So I think it's a little bit different, but I do think that your point is in its essentials correct, that you need to be playing a character that you like, that you enjoy using, because if that's true, then you'll be more into exploring all the little facets of the character. You won't feel like it's a chore. If you think something's a chore, you just are less inclined to put everything into it.
Right.
So if it's something that you like, then you're going to do better. But it has to be within competitive reason. Like, if your favorite character is Q, you're out of luck. But if your favorite character is one of the top
Makoto,
10-ish or whatever, exactly.
Yang kind of
right,
thing.
then okay, you can do it. It's maybe a little tougher, but it's doable.
And as you mentioned, obviously in a game like Dragon Ball, the team aspect can cover Piccolo's weaknesses a lot more, right? So
so I think I wouldn't learn like all the lessons out of it. It's just. But it is a good point that you have to enjoy the characters, and he definitely enjoys Piccolo. It's obvious, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if he would enjoy other characters well enough to also win with them. I think that it might be reasonable for him to try that out. But if he finds that he just doesn't enjoy playing the game without Piccolo, then that's fine. I mean, even in thinking in other team games, there's certainly examples where somebody has 2 out of 3 strong characters in Marvel 3 or in Marvel 2.
Oh, did NL play Ryu Season 1? Okay, that's my mistake. I wasn't sure.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
But, I mean, he's been playing her for 2 years now, and he's obviously very good with this character, so just a lot more than, like, what Punk and Knuckle do and GamerBee are doing, right? So,
sure.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Cool. Kind of related to this, the next question that I have for you here is that, dude, Hook Gang Gods, he entered his first tournament 4 months ago.
His first offline tournament ever was this year.
And that's what a lot of... And now he just won...
And now he's maybe the best Dragon Ball player in the world.
Right. I mean, it's hard to debate that when you beat Goichi, Fenrich, and Sonic Fox in the same tournament, right? It's really hard to argue with that. Similar, I feel like, kind of like how Punk showed up all of a sudden, He just showed up out of nowhere at the Red Bull Battlegrounds.
Again, he had played online, but not offline.
But then he
as much
got, 3rd place, I think it was, at that tournament? And then it was like, I think it was like
Sounds
4th
right.
or 3rd place or something like that. And he did really well. And, it's interesting, there's these young kids, like, coming in here, and then they're winning and doing really well right away. So a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, this guy is just oozing with natural talent. And, for me, that's kind of scary because, I'm of the notion that I believe that, you can get to that place even if you don't have that kind of natural talent. But do you feel like this genre is kind of a natural talent kind of, favoring kind of situation here? You know what I mean? Can we expect someone to rise up all of a sudden and defeat everybody like Hook Gang God did that put in the work,
So I think the first thing I would say is that although the first time that he played offline in a tournament was 4 months ago, wild number, first off, incredible number. He put in a lot of work online before that. So it's not like this dude picked up fighting games this year. He put in a ton of work. Punk did the same thing. Mena did the same thing. It just, if you're not paying attention, and why would you, previously, then it feels like they just pop in and, here they are, they're the best all of a sudden. That said, certainly for all those cases, their rise is meteoric. It is.
Even Mena RD had had a meteoric rise.
Absolutely right. So for all those guys, and for some others too, it's definitely meteoric in a way that is rare. It's so. My take on it is that it's always been the case that the players with talent are the ones who win and also put in the time. So I would say that in almost no case is somebody a strong player who doesn't have natural talent. Certainly there are cases where somebody has less natural talent but puts in more work, and there's a kind of like a combination where that can be made to work in rare cases. But I think for the vast majority of top players, and for the best players exclusively so, that they come into it with a giant amount of natural talent. They're very smart, they're analytical, they adapt quickly, they can keep their eye on what's going on physically while also keeping their brain going on what's happening, which is just not an easy combination to make happen.
Yeah, I mean,
they have physical control out of things. They have two hands that work. Like there's just like a lot of things that are, I feel, required innately. Right. That doesn't mean that you're going to be the best, because you have to then also put in a lot of work.
Right.
So nobody's the best or even good without putting in a lot of work.
Right.
Absolutely right. But I also think that nobody's the best who doesn't also have incredible natural talent.
I mean, a lot of people are talking about Tokido. Tokido was one of the best when we saw him.
Incredible natural talent. Absolutely.
A long time ago at B5 or whatever it was. Knuckle Dew was worse than Dominion with Guile for a while.
Sure.
And he just kind of did.
When he was 15 years old, that's true.
Yeah. But, even someone like when I think of I try to think of the guys who are hard at work, right? Who are there year after year after year, like GamerB, right? But GamerB won a VF2 tournament like 20 years ago or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like he was obviously very good at video games the whole entire time. But I mean, do you think that's discouraging to people?
Well, I don't know, but I feel like if that's discouraging to them, it's going to be a tough life, because that's not just in fighting games. That's just how everything is. I think it would be great if that wasn't the case. Certainly, it would accord with my politics better in some ways. But I definitely think it's true that for anything, the people who are the best at it are the ones who A, have natural talent, and B, also put in the work.
Right. So
I feel like you have to have both, but without, it's easier to go without lots of work than it is without natural talent.
Right. I mean, there are certain players, I love him to death. Kaneda, Terry, for example.
Yeah.
First time I played him in Street Fighter 4, it was one of those situations where I was like, all right, I gotta go easy on this guy and not make him feel bad. You know what I mean? Kind of situation. But he got to the point where, remember, he got a Road to Evo point. He was so happy about that. It was 1 point, but he was happy about that. He got super good in there, right?
Well,
I bring up guys like Gustavo, right? He's made it to 2 Capcom Cups.
Yeah.
And I remember in the beginning of Street Fighter 4, he wasn't even the stronger between him and Renzo.
Sure.
Right? Renzo, Peru, was definitely a stronger player than he was, but eventually Gustavo kind of worked his way up there. Then we've got players like Dark Jawar, who's just been going everywhere, but he just doesn't seem to be able to find that success.
Well, I mean, he makes top 8s pretty regularly at major events, so it's not like he's doing nothing. But I do think that when it comes to, can you win Evo or Capcom Cup or even a Premier in the way that NL did, I really think that there's a lot of natural talent that goes into it, and then you also have to have a lot of work.
Right. I actually really like what Muffin Man said there. Being restricted by the belief that you need natural talent is more of a hurdle than not having the natural talent, So basically, if you basically believe that I can't succeed because I don't have the natural talent, that's going to hold you back more,
Okay, so you might make it a self-fulfilling prophecy because
right.
you don't try because you think.
Well,
I think it's also true that not everybody goes into it thinking that they have natural talent, but in fact having natural talent. Because in other things in life, I've certainly met people who are actually very smart, but have been told by people who were jerks that they're stupid. Or that they're not great athletes, but actually they can do some things. Maybe they're not the best runner, but maybe they lift weights really well. So I've met enough people that it seems like they may have natural talent, but they didn't believe it until they put the work in, and then they were like, actually, I'm pretty good. So but I think in those cases it's probably less that they worked really hard and they created talent out of nothing than that they discovered that in fact they had talent.
I mean,
but they also worked really hard.
There's also, some people are talking about Justin and Chris G. Justin doesn't practice that much. Chris G, according to Biscuit Butt, basically says that Chris G says that he only plays fighting games when he's streaming, et cetera, like that. It's interesting because obviously those are very talented players.
Yeah.
But we don't see the work that they put into it. So Justin always tells a story where he couldn't win at Chinatown Fair, so he practiced a ton to get to the point where he could beat people. And then Chris G was one of those people at Chinatown Fair that Justin used to enjoy beating up.
Yeah,
and
he was a scrub.
Yeah, Chris G had to get good. Yeah. I think about guys like Chris Tatarian, right? So he's obviously been playing super well.
Oh, yeah.
When he first showed up to Wednesday Night Fights, he was just another guy that you beat up on.
Sure.
And you talk to him about what he had to learn from Vi, what he had to learn from John Choi, you know, he always tells that story about the first to 10 with John Choi and all that stuff like that. You know, he's obviously put in the work to get to that level. Whereas someone like Snake Eyes was like, I'm just going to go play HDR. I won EVO.
Right.
You know, and so,
I mean, to be fair, he had played earlier too. But no, I mean, but you're right. So my take is that there's a spectrum, and that there are some players who have, you know, maybe you need 100 points to win EVO, and some people have 80 points of talent, and then they just need like the extra 20. And then there's some people who had 50 points of talent, and they needed to like work the extra 50 of it, right? So maybe for Snake Eyes, we're talking about somebody who can just do it,
right?
Or maybe that's how Hook Gang God is. Maybe he had 80 points of talent already, and he just needed to work a little bit more. But some players, like I wouldn't think that somebody would be able to have 20 points of talent and then build the 80. That seems unlikely to me. So.
And then, so, you know, and then about Chris G saying that he barely practices unless he's streaming. There are definitely two types of players. There are the ones that once they figure out the mental side of it, they just can maintain it without practicing much. And then there are the players who, if they don't play, it's just...
Sure.
Right. That's honestly how I am.
Right.
I've said this many times. Right. I am a quantity player.
Right.
I get better by playing a lot. If I don't play a lot, then I can't retain it like everybody else, like a lot of other people do. I've always felt like Gutex is that kind of a player as well. He was super competitive. Right, in Street Fighter 4 because he played every day.
Sure.
And then when he hasn't played as much, he hasn't been able to maintain it. But guys like Justin and Chris G, it's like they don't have to play, and then somehow they just don't lose anything.
Well, when you talk with some of those guys about it, what they say is that instead of playing, they think about situations in advance, and in thinking about it, that's enough for them to remember what to do when it comes up. So it's not like they approach situations sight unseen at all, but it's more like, there's a thing. What should I do about it? Ruminate. Okay, there it is.
I was just talking to a player today who said that, you know, they feel like they get better not as much by practicing, but more just theory crafting a lot.
I think that's definitely true. I'm not sure that speaks to like what your ceiling is in terms of skill, because I feel like both. I think it's just a different way to get there. So I feel like players can be good.
So you do feel like the people without the natural talent can still overcome that handicap a little bit.
I'm saying I don't think that necessarily speaks to natural talent.
Oh, okay.
I think that may be a separate thing.
Okay.
I think that there's natural talent in anything. I mean, for sure. Like there are certainly things. I don't know. I mean, I've had experiences where I come with friends. We come into something new, and one of my friends is great at it, and I'm struggling, or I'm really good at it, and they're struggling, and they're like, I don't understand, and I'm like, it's easy. I just do X or Y, and it's like the opposite when they are good. That's. I've experienced that. Right? I feel like that's a normal thing. So in those situations, I think that's the natural talent popping out. And then if I worked a lot at it, maybe I'd find that I have talent too. Maybe it wasn't apparent, or maybe I would be able to overcome my friend's lack of working on things and with my own work.
Right.
But I definitely think that there's natural talent.
I mean, the nicest thing, honestly, about fighting games, just to kind of bring this whole thing to a close, is regardless if you have the natural talent or not, at least it isn't a basketball situation where if you're 4 foot, whatever, 5 foot, you're just assed out and you're not going to be able to succeed unless you're the super rare Muggsy Bogues. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, there's the situations where maybe if your hands don't work as properly, but then you look at a guy like Broly Legs and you're like, well, I don't really have an excuse. You know what I mean? So that's the nice thing about video games. Definitely a nice thing about that. So.
Well, I guess I think that it's true that for pro sports there are more bottlenecks. You can't do it unless you're a certain height, which is not something we have to deal with.
Right.
But they also can't do it if they're like stupid or
lazy.
if they whatever. So those things also apply to fighting gamers, but maybe not also height. But there are things that you need as a fighting game player.
I mean, I'll tell you this right
that you
now.
Can't get by without.
We wouldn't even maybe even be having this conversation about who the greatest basketball player is of all time if Shaq didn't get fat and lazy.
Maybe.
Like, because he had the potential he was in such a unique position that nobody would ever match his size and speed and strength.
Yeah.
And then he got fat and lazy. That's the end of that. So.
for me, this was it took me a long time to learn the lesson that I had to work at things. It's still hard for me to learn that.
Right.
Because, well, I don't want to talk about myself up too much, but there's this one time in law school where my friend was really happy because she felt that she came into law school with the worst LSAT score, but now the best grades, like the best combination of whatever that separation is. She felt she had the best separation, and she was super happy. And I knew that I was the opposite. I came into law school with a super good LSAT, and then I got ass grades because I never worked. And she did the opposite. She worked really hard, and she was really happy. And I was like mad at myself that I didn't also work. But I definitely came into it with like a really high. I should have been good, and I wasn't. I was really bad at it. So it took me a long time to learn that I had to do that too. It's I don't know.
It sucks, dude.
It's just
effort is hard.
Natural talent's not going to get you anywhere, or not going to get you everywhere. Yes. I think that it gets you a pretty good distance, but if you don't also have work on top of it, then it doesn't matter if you're naturally talented.
You have to foster and maintain natural talent in a lot of ways. And even if Chris and Justin aren't practicing as much, they already put in a bunch of that work. They already put in a bunch of that
Tens of thousands of hours.
Yeah, we talked about Snake Eyes earlier. Even in that little documentary that Vi narrated and stuff that Red Bull put out, he talked about how he had played Street Fighter hours and hours and hours at the arcade.
Incredible amount. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, 99th percentile, and then I got a C and stuff. I really should have done the homework.
And actually, Soul Name actually has a little bit, or is it Sui Name? Yeah, Sui Name. Actually, or Suinami maybe, I don't know, but there is also a lot of luck too.
Oh, dude, I honestly think luck is the biggest thing, because luck. The innate talent is luck. You can't claim any of that yourself. You just whatever talent is there is not your doing. It just happens to be there for you. And then on top of that, the circumstances or the innate personality that lead to you doing all the extra work. I feel like there's a lucky set of circumstances that brings that about too. I feel like life is basically about luck in almost all the important ways, but that's not a useful thing to think. I feel like that's fact, but it's not useful to believe that. If that makes sense. It's more, in a utilitarian sense, more useful for you to think that you need to work at everything, because if you don't, then you're not gonna, and then definitely you're not gonna do anything.
Right. You're not putting yourself in a position where luck can benefit.
Exactly.
Basically.
But the reality, I feel, is that luck is basically everything, and part of your belief that you need to work is also luck.
Yeah. So. The way that I kind of think of it is both ways, that, luck is a factor of it, but you put yourself in positions where luck will benefit you. You have to be ready to seize that moment when it comes up, kind of situation. Yeah,
you're right. But that said, I feel like that entrepreneurial spirit is maybe a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
To want to do that, or to be able to recognize that in the first place.
For sure. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
life. It's a gamble,
this
friends.
Conversation went into a very different position, so,
Then the last thing I wanted to talk about was I really enjoyed some of the commentary over this past weekend when Justin did commentary at E-League, and at the summit we had Leffen and Nakio and Lord Knight and a couple of the other players doing commentary there, and I really liked it. I thought that it was awesome. They are very smart players. They're very insightful. They know their game super, super well, and they can talk about it. So, should we always have players on commentary? / are players better commentators?
I don't necessarily... Well, I believe that there is a factor in which you have to have played a little bit to understand the kind of things that you go through in the game. I don't feel like I would be a quality commentator if I hadn't played as much as I have.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to be one of the best to do commentary. However, I love listening to the best players talk about things, like when Justin goes into details about this guy has this habit, that guy has that habit. That stuff is cool, and I think it's a good complement to what we know of commentary right now. So what they did at E-League, I think, works out, and I did like the conversational style of what's going on there, because there's definitely two levels of it, right? So, for example, what Justin did at E-League was fantastic, right? He was really analytical and all stuff like that, really went into the high-level stuff. But then, you know, as an FAQ writer, and I think that's probably one of my greatest strengths as a commentator, is that I kind of have this really keen sense of what people are aware of and what and the audience that's watching it. So, like, one of the things that made me sad was when Momochi did just the most epic high counter to Commander Jesse jumping back.
That was super sick.
They were just like, oh my god, that was the counter for the ages and everything like that. And they clipped it, you know, that it was on Twitter. And no one talked about the fact that Colleen's EX has to be aimed.
Right.
And so I tweeted that, and I was like, look, this was amazing because you still have to aim Colleen's counter. And he did the anti-air counter next to somebody because he knew Commander Jesse was going to jump back and punch. That's what made that counter ridiculous. And, like, I feel like sometimes people forget to talk about that. You know, and I had some people who were like, wait, doesn't EX counter them all? And I'm like, nope, not with Colleen. And, you know, like, so I feel like there needs to be a good balance between those two kind of things. It's kind of like when I watch Inside the NBA and Kenny and Charles and Shaq are going kind of crazy, and then Ernie Johnson kind of has to reel them in sometimes, you know. So I think it's a good combination of having both. Having said that, I think it would be kind of interesting maybe to do a three-man commentary, you know, with a really strong player. The hardest part is, can we find the really strong player who's not making top 8s all the time?
I think that's the biggest roadblock. I think, you know, part of it for sure was that Justin was doing analyst
Yipes
role.
did win Evo. Yipes won Evo.
Yeah, I think that. Okay. So Justin was not the live commentator; he was the analyst, and there was no requirement that he. I mean, I guess there's a time constraint, but it wasn't fast. He didn't need to like get all the points out very quickly.
Right.
It was analysis afterward where you get more time to talk about whatever's in your mind. You don't have to speak quickly. You don't have to shut yourself up and watch whatever the next thing that's going on is. And at the summit, it was also conversationally enough that you could speak. You wouldn't have to cut yourself off either. So it wasn't like the same kind of like maybe fast-paced commentary that other situations require. So I think these situations were a little bit unusual. I don't think that they're common. That said, I definitely think that if those guys were to commentate a lot, that they would learn those skills because they're learnable. We learned them. We didn't start out with that stuff.
We were terrible at first.
Yeah, so I think that they'd be able to learn that stuff too. And if they did, they would also be super good.
Yeah.
I would say, though, that in doing so, they would have to spend so much time commentating that they wouldn't be playing as much anymore, and that they wouldn't be quite as up in playing situations as they currently are. In early Street Fighter 4, I won tournaments and stuff, but in commentating, I mean, obviously for other reasons too, but part of why I became not as good a player was because I was concentrating on commentary. And so it's very difficult to have both sides of those things.
Yeah.
So I feel like kind of it would end up being that they wouldn't be quite as strong on the things that we really liked about their commentary. So I don't know, the trade-off is maybe a little bit...
Like, I'm wondering if, like, let's say PR Balrog says, you know, I don't want to play anymore, and then, like, he jumps on commentary. Would he be able to have that same kind of analytical thing as when he doesn't play as much, is kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. And I think he would retain a lot of it. Yeah. But I do think that there'd be that like edge that he's spent so much time honing would be a little bit duller.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I think most of us who are commentating were at one point top level players.
Right.
It's the case with like some of us have. I've never been in an Evo top 8 actually, but basically everybody else has.
I have, but it was Mario Kart.
I know.
Yeah. It's just it doesn't even count. Although for an Evo West, I was in a top 8.
There you go. I can't say that.
Evo West for. I think it was for Hyper Anniversary Edition.
Okay.
Yeah, I
think my highest ever placing at a major was second or third. Maybe it was third at SoCal Regionals when it was at Denjin. Or maybe it was called California Regionals.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I got third place. So, yeah, I don't have that stuff. But most of the players most of the commentators are or were really good players, and they could be making top 8 or top 16 if they really spent their time on it. I think for most of the cases. Sajam is like that for sure. Rip, Tasty Steve, Katana Prime, Ketchup and Mustard are both like that. Yeah, I feel like in a lot of the situations, there are people who have made top 8s at majors or even won Evo in some cases. So I think that most of the commentators basically are who like Nakiel and Lord Knight are now.
Right.
But in the future, if they didn't spend as much time playing and more time commentating instead.
And I did make top 8 in Mario Kart DS, and that's
and Yipes as well. Obviously, he won.
That's when I was actually not as good in that game.
Okay.
Like, I got way better at Mario Kart DS, so like I probably could have did a lot better. But even still, I have the first place player Snake. I'm just a Ghost on one of my favorite tracks on that Mario Kart DS, and I cannot keep up with it.
Dang, all right.
I just, it like doesn't make any sense to me. It literally makes no sense to me how fast he disappears.
That's funny, man.
It's still crazy. It's still crazy.
Sejam was one of the best Killer Instinct players for a while.
He'd still be making top 8s.
He probably would be.
Yeah, especially. And even in Injustice, he would be making top 8s.
I'm not sure. I think he definitely did and would have in Injustice 1, but the scene has changed a lot. I'm sure that would be doable now. But I think he'd be making top 16s for sure. Ringe was a good Marvel player. Ski Sonic has made top 8 at Evo at least once, I think twice.
TVC.
With TVC.
Yeah,
and he was actually at top 8 of the first Marvel Infinite Major even. So he's a super good player.
Yeah.
Ski was really good in Marvel and in Capcom versus SNK too.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, again, kind of summing it up a little bit.
Anyway.
I think I like the variety, right? Obviously I would like to commentate everything from a financial standpoint, right? But if let's just say we were all getting paid enough that, we didn't have to worry about that, I would love to see the variety. I think that's one of the unique things about the fighting game community is that we have the variety and the different kind of styles. So if a tournament, like, I don't know if I'd want the 2 commentators and like the pro player and analyst every time.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
You know what I mean? Like, at this one event, we do the standard 2 stuff. On this event, like at Red Bull Battlegrounds, we'll do the 4-man couch thing. On this event, at Summit, they do the 5 things. So, I'm all for the variety more than anything.
Makes sense to me, man.
So,
yeah.
There you go. So, I'm down with any version of it, so...
Z was a pretty good Street Fighter 4 player.
Yeah.
Eris was super good Tekken player, of course.
Dude, he was even super good at Injustice 1, dude.
Yeah, that's right. Really good at Soul Calibur, of course.
Seth Killian was a top ST player.
Again, I think almost all of the strong commentators were, or even are, good players.
Reinhardt would be so good.
Reinhardt's yeah, he's done it in the past. I think he's really good.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. But no, I think
Scar and Toph were good. I mean, again, like I think in almost all of the cases, Ryan Hunter's a good player.
Like I said, you kind of have to be though.
Yeah.
You kind of have to because you have to understand the mentality of a player. Like I like one of the matches that we did when Problem X went up 2-0 against NuckleDoo and then got tied up, and then in that last game where he just kind of crumbled, I started talking about that mental fatigue stuff. I wouldn't have been able to talk about that had I not experienced it myself so many times. You know what I mean? I could see exactly what was happening to him, in that last match, because I was like, damn, I do this all the time.
Right.
I play this super solid game. You get to the last game, and you're just like, I'm tired. Like, I just want to get this over with.
Yeah.
So you start doing stupid, like, I'm going to meaty uppercut because I just want to do the damage and win so I can stop.
Sure.
And that mental
I know exactly
fatigue.
What you mean.
Yeah. But see, you don't know that until you play and you've been in those situations.
Oh, of course.
So, yeah.
And by the way, it's not even just in English language. Most of the best Japanese commentators were Nuki's a great example. Yeah, Hameko's super good, also a really good player. Like, I feel like that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hellbox did make top 8 at CEO in KOF.
Yeah,
he was scheduled to commentate, but he could not.
He got pulled off of that.
Top 8.
Yep, exactly. So, yep.
And there have been some times.
Ryan Hart is a great comment. Ryan Hunter is a great commentator.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier. Yeah, Spooky was a good player. Arturo's still a fantastic player. F-Word was a really good Ibuki player. Logan he'll tell you, not the best player in the world. But he's not that bad.
He might be one of the main exceptions.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
I think he's like the number one exception about that because he's never really played super competitively. But, I mean,
he's not like a bad player by any stretch.
Well, what I'm saying is like, during the course of Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5, he has played a ton of casuals.
For sure.
And he has improved a lot.
That is true.
And somehow, I mean, there is something like, I don't know if it's just because he talks with F-word a lot, but he's absorbed a lot of it in there as well. So
yeah, Tyrant is a really good commentator. Obviously, he was a great player. Jammers is the same.
Baruti, yeah. Also
Spooky made top 8 at Evo in Melty Blood.
Did he make top 8 in that?
Or maybe he was 9th place. It was like one of those two, for sure.
Okay, yeah. Actually, I don't know anything about
Donka has definitely placed high in tournaments, sure.
I don't actually
multiple
know
top 8s in
anything
multiple
about
games.
Giuna's previous experience, but I know he's been good at anime games and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, that segment actually lasted much longer than I was expecting it to. But
man, I didn't know Logan was in silver in Street Fighter 5. No.
Silver? I mean, I'm still in silver right now, but that's because I've barely played. I got to gold. I hit platinum at one point in time, and then I switched characters and I lost all my points.
Oh, okay. Well,
so
that happens.
That's what happened. So yeah. That's basically what happened. But I did make platinum at one point in time with Tourney. So with playing like once every 3 weeks or something like that. So there you go. So.
Oh, Giuna made qualified for SBO in BlazBlue? I didn't know that.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, top BlazBlue player in Japan with Coconut.
Okay, there's not that serious.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Okay. I guess we can do some FGC. Actually, do you mind if we take a quick break and then we can come back and do the FGC news stuff?
You got it, man.
All right, cool. We'll be right back, guys. We'll be right back.